came to this country in the 1920s. It was before I immigrated here permanently in 1933. I met Mr. Charles Chaplin, and he took me to the film opening of his new movies, The Gold Rush. And we arrived at this theater in Los Angeles, and the crowd recognized me and began chanting my name, Einstein, 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 and I became very frightened. And I said to Mr. Chaplin, I said, all this adulation, what does it mean? And Charlie, who knew, said, nothing. Nothing. Yeah, he was right, I think. You know, photographers, reporters, journalists, autograph seekers, they surround me like wolves. They all want a piece of me. And sometimes I try to discourage them, you know, with their funny faces, but it doesn't matter. Tomorrow my tone will be on the front page of the New York Times. How did this phenomenon come to be? I am famous for something that hardly anyone understands. Relativity. And those reporters, the journalists, the cannibals that they are, they're the last vestige of cannibalism. And they always say, Einstein, don't go into the equations, don't see, it doesn't discourage them. And so, the reporters always say, we don't deal with the equations in the newspaper stories. We have to have the idea, the concept of relativity must be very, very succinct. Just give us a couple of sentences in a quote that explains the relativity. And so, put your hand on a hot stove for a minute, when it feels like an hour. Sit next to a pretty girl for an hour, and it feels like a minute. That's relativity. You know, I was started out. I was born in Ulm, Germany, in 1879, and I was first thought to be a slow-witted child because I did not say my first words until after my second birthday. I was not stupid, I just had nothing of importance to say. And I was a solitary figure as a boy. I was the only Jew in a Catholic school. And I remember I was very interested in religion. At the time I was 6 years old, I used to make up songs praising God on the way to school. It lasted maybe 8 months and I gave it up. But, right away in school in Germany, I do not know very much about growing up in this country, in the schools here, obviously, but in Germany, I quickly became alienated, I suppose, by the regimentation and the rote learning of the German school system. And I withdrew from that very early on. And my instructors, the teachers called me Dummkopf, Dummhead. And they called me a Fahrerhund, a lazy dog. And I left the high school before the graduation. I suppose I am what you would call here a dropout. But I did enroll in the Polytechnic in Zurich, the Swiss Polytechnic Academy. And it was there I met my wife, my first wife, Meliva Merrick. She was also a physics student. And I did not have a good experience in the university either because of the German regimentation of it. they were always requiring us to memorize things over and over again, then spit out the memorization, and to me this was not learning. But I did graduate. My advisor, my graduate advisor, referred to me as Einstein the lazy dog, and he said I would never amount to anything. And I thought I would get out of the university and become a professor myself, and spend my days with my students, and go home and raise my family. And I would spend the weekends sailing in my boat. I love to sail. And I would, my hobby is playing the violin, and I thought I would have a very idyllic life as a professor. But when I graduated from the academy, no one would hire me because my professors would not give me the good recommendation. Would you hire a lazy dog? I don't think you would. And so I went without a job. I tried tutoring students for about a year. And after a time, my friend, Michel Brissot, helped me find a job in the Swiss patent office in Bern. And believe it or not, it was the perfect job for me. Because you see, I had most of, in the morning I would go through the various patent applications for a better mousetrap or perpetual motion machine or whatever new device people were saying they were going to invent. And that didn't take very long. And so I had the whole remainder of the day to think and to reflect on physics, which was my first love. And so in the year 1905, I published 5 papers. 3 of them were quite revolutionary, and they became the foundation of my reputation. Oh, that rhymes. Foundation of my reputation. I like rhymes. I often write the doggerel, the silly verses, you know, to friends of mine. Just the other day, I wrote to 2 friends, my friend Epstein, who is a sculptor, on Gertrude Stein, the writer. And I wrote the same piece of verse to both of them. And it goes, there is a strange family named Stein. There's Eb, and there's Gert, and there's Ein. Eb's sculptures are junk, Gert's writing is bunk, and nobody understands Ein. It's better in the original German. And of course my 1905 papers, of course, were written in German. And they made hardly a ripple anywhere except for very advanced physicists. And it was not until 1919 that an English astronomer observed an eclipse of the sun and proved one of the aspects of the relativity theory, that light can be bent by gravity. And when this news came out, all the newspapers around the world were filled with the headlines, Einstein overthrows Newton, heavens agog, things like that. And so I became instantly well known. My pictures appeared in every newspaper in the world. And I went from being obscure to famous. I was even offered university positions from people who wouldn't even return my letters previously. And people knew that I was famous for something called relativity, but they weren't quite sure what that meant. And so they thought perhaps because of the name it had something to do with human procreation. And so when in 1910, when I went to London to lecture on relativity, people in the streets said, "Oh, there goes Einstein, the sex doctor."